most, when I go and visit different authorities, most have got this classic patchwork quilt design. And these represent days of collection, and on a particular day there's vehicles dotted around the whole of the authority. Okay, this brings certain confusion. There's a lot of boundaries between days of collection. If you want to change anything, you've got to inform the public. And North Tyneside were quite good at the start. They had some good data, they had good GIS skills already in place. But there was large restrictions in the data, lots of medium-sized vehicles required because you've got lots of backlane areas along the river. But we still managed to save 2 vehicles. Our results show you only need 12 vehicles to service this area rather than 14, which are currently using. That's the new scenario. You can see there's a lot less boundaries between days. South Tyneside, very much similar. Classic patchwork quilt effect. Days of collections all over the place. We've remodeled that to zoned, much more zonal effect. Each one of these zones is in equal parts. Currently using 9 vehicles, we can model it using 8 vehicles, and if they go to a 490 collection, which they're considering at the moment, then only 5 vehicles are needed. So we're coming up with these answers for managers to make better informed decisions. Okay, improvements. Universal improvements. We've improved things like the health and safety of the crews, because you can build in rules such as one-sided street collections, such as time windows. Don't service on this street, it's outside of school, so don't service it between certain times. Built all that into the risk of each route. Each route is now clearly documented. We've got a balanced workload. Most people have gone for a 4-day working week because they can do vehicle servicing on the spare day or use the vehicles for other things. We're trying to be sustainable, safe and cost effective. We've looked at depot rationalisation and made some savings there. We've looked at sharing services across boundaries and also made some savings there. So we've got really a regional approach to this very important frontline service that we're going to take into the future as being very, very sustainable and cost effective. Cashable savings and return on investment. Very quickly, because you can model what ifs, you can say, okay, what's happening now? So you can get on that same data, you can compare that to what your new scenarios are like. We've made a 15% saving in vehicle mileage in Durham. That equates to 1,308 miles per week, with a fuel cost saving of £1,500 a week. For frontline service, that's very significant. So that's going to equate to a 15% saving in vehicle numbers. In Durham, that's around about 7 vehicles. If you're buying a new fleet of vehicles, you don't need 7 times £100,000, potentially saving you £700,000. In Northumberland, 16% saving, 1,500 miles per week, fuel saving of just under £2,000 per week, estimated saving of 5 vehicles for those services. North Tyneside, a lot more compact area, again 10 to 15% saving, 3 vehicles. That equates to around about 350 miles a week. Not as much as the rural Northumberland and Durham, but still quite significant. South Tyneside, again, depending on what management choose, you're looking at a 10 to 15% saving. Teesside, I'm currently coming up to the end of mentoring in Teesside, so I haven't got the updated results. And in Gateshead and Sunderland, I'm starting the mentoring in November the 22nd and Sunderland January 2011. Once I've finished that, I'll be putting a report together in terms of definite efficiencies in each area. So current stages, completed all the training. When REAP comes to an end at the end of March, hopefully there'll be people within each of the authorities who can take this work forward and apply the same type of work that we've done to other projects. The server's established, and hopefully it's here to stay. People hopefully like what they've seen and like the product, and they can take that forward also. Vehicle tracking's been installed on 270 vehicles right across the region, so we know where each vehicle is at any moment of time. So in the next 5 months, I've got probably about 40 mentoring days remaining, so I'm going to use them on Teesside, Sunderland and Gateshead. Predict that they'll be complete by the end of February, My contract comes to an end at the end of March, so we're very much on target. What we'll be doing in that other month is setting up all the automated updates to the CRM systems. So when people ring up and say, what day is my bin of collection, it's correct. And hopefully we're going to continue to use the software in other areas of waste management, such as garden waste, glass collections, trade waste, etc., etc. Every time you run a model, probably takes, as I said, 100,000 properties, probably takes about 10 to 15 minutes. In the past, it would probably take about 3 months to model that one scenario. So every time you press a button, you're making really, you're making efficiency savings. Okay, so to conclude, consultation and implementation, I can see these routes being implemented likely in spring. It's not until then that they'll really realise the return on investment. Consultations are ongoing with staff and unions in the authorities. You can't just change these frontline services willy-nilly, just the guys turn up one day and they've got a new set of routes. They've all got to be signed off by the unions and agreed accordingly. We're changing a lot of terms and conditions in terms of working to 4-day weeks and so on and so forth. I think the return on investment is likely to be greater than 1 to 2.5. Usually in a GIS project you're looking at that 2.5 value return on investment. And I think it'll be actually larger than that. Obviously we're going to have costs and environmental benefits, including the CO2 footprint of these vehicles. And hopefully we can apply this software to other services. When you see council vehicles out and about, driving, doing their work, as a customer, I think you should be, you should be confident that these services are being planned properly, and that vehicle is actually out there doing that work because it needs to be there. You see things in the papers about we're running out of salt and things like this. Is that because we've used too much salt in some places? Is it because it's not planned properly? These are some of the questions that this software can answer, with obviously the assistance of those working and those specialising in those services. Okay, thank you very much. Hopefully that was a quick insight into the project. There's obviously a lot of work on. Probably, around about 1,500 routes at the end of the day will be designed accordingly at the end of this, and that's just a very small snapshot into some of the models that have been produced. So thanks for your time. I'll take any questions. Hi.
And you're using a sort of a hosted service.
Yeah.
Have you had to transfer a significant amount of data out of the individual authorities' systems, and if so, is that a challenge?
Really, no, out of the local authorities, it's just the property data really. So that's just been a database export. We take all the other data over and survey direct from the open survey and just load that up onto the server. So
Was that uploaded yourself over the net, or you kind of send?
no, just send this down to integrate the skills of the data centre, and they just load them on. What I'm going to try and do in the future is get obviously the data sent directly to the server rather than come to the authority first and then be sent back down to the
Except like probably a saving on licence fees. The only reason why you're using the purchase smart as opposed to network analysts.
Yeah, simply because the numbers of properties network analysts wouldn't deal with really that many thousands of properties. Simply wouldn't do it. We're saving, Route Smart is more expensive than network analysts. Yeah. Yeah, we haven't made any savings there in that respect. We've made savings in the fact that we're using a hosted service, that we've shared the costs of the licenses. We did do a good deal on the license costs and primary, secondary licenses and buying it regionally. We made a significant saving there. It's made a saving in terms of the fact that it's hosted. If someone up in Berwick's got a problem, I don't need to get in my car and drive to Berwick to sit for 5 minutes and fix the problem. I can log on, fix the problem, and save that journey to Berwick. So hosted systems are efficient, and it's the experience. I'm getting some very, very good feedback from the system and from the users. It's pretty much the same as if you had it installed on your PC. It's that good.
Have you had any problems with data quality in using the ITM data?
No, the ITM data has been good. We have had problems with the LLPG data. especially in, well, I'm not going to name any names, but Hartlepool was pretty bad. I had 4,000 properties on top of each other in one location. ITN data has been pretty good, and because you've got those other network tools, once you start getting these detailed travel paths, the actual waste managers can say, oh, well, I don't want my vehicle going there, and they can actually put some extra control over the ITN. So overall, I think ITN is an improved product, and I'm going to be interested in getting the paths network that's meant to come out very soon, because you can use that network and apply it to sweeping vehicles and things like that. So I can see, ITN is a good product. Yeah.
Do you sit down and plan these routes collaboratively with the managers and the drivers and things, or do you come up with the analysis and then show them what you've done?
No, the managers have been those people who've done the training and done the workshops, and they've brought in drivers and things like that. So it's very much a collaboration. It's not just, I think authorities in the past have done things like paid a consultant a bag of money to come up with a design of routes. And because you've never really had that input from the drivers, it's very easy for them to say, nah, that'll not work, or we don't want to do that. So I've tried where possible to include everyone who wants to be included in the process, invited drivers and things like that, and have workshops with them. And I think that's definitely the way to go forward, because if you just turn up and say, I want you to do that work now, in the waste management environment, more likely it'll just get thrown back in your face and they'll just say, I can't do it. But if everything's transparent here, and they can say what the other vehicles are doing, how much work the other vehicles have got, and how we've produced that data through the vehicle tracking data. So it's all based on work that they're actually doing and they've already done. So that's been a real benefit of the program.
Hi, question. You mentioned you can put all kinds of variables in when you're trying to create routes,
Yeah.
Don't want to collect outside of schools at busy time.
Mm-hmm.
Does it also take into consideration the actual capacity of the vehicles? So
Yeah,
you're
of
not
course,
collecting it's at full capacity, then it spends all its time just driving down back to the depot. So it can do a circular route, and just as it comes back, it's kind of full capacity.
Of course, you've got you can build up fleet sizes of different vehicles, because people have different size of vehicles. You give each vehicle capacity, and each individual property's got a capacity, and when that vehicle gets full, it'll send it to the tip and then route it back and start working again. It'll not necessarily send it back when the vehicle's full. It uses some algorithms to say when's the best time to send it back to the depot and back to the tip. So yeah, capacities are one of the main things that you need to get right. So if you put the wrong size vehicles in, if you put the wrong size capacity of the bins in, or how much waste is going to be there, then the models are going to be incorrect. So we need to get that right as